Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with.
CJ Lou from the Fired Up with CJ show.
Woo!
Woohoo!
I hear that flattened. I've just been fighting traffic. I'm exhausted energy in you. If you've ever wanted to shift gears, take charge, and live the life of your dreams, then do we have the How to Reinvent Yourself show for you. Today, we'll talk about stepping into your power, re-envisioning your future, letting go of your paradigms, and reinventing your new life.
Mm.
That, plus, we'll talk about chasing bicycles, putting it all out on the table, calling in the troops, re-envisioning what's possible, graduation day, the Camino de Santiago, training for it, that is, focusing big picture, being truly honest with what we want, being willing to take risks, what on earth is tandemania, and what in the world a new and improved Inspire Nation is just beginning to look like. So, welcome back to
Ooh.
the show, CJ. Are you ready to
I
shine?
am ready to shine. Woohoo! Is that better? Less
I
exhausted?
think my kitty, Love Bug, just went. "Woo-woo!"
Yeah, it's just I met with a friend to go for a walk, and then directly afterwards I went to a cocktail party for my son's graduation, in which it was kind of where you see like, oh, there's the parents of my child who's who's friends with them in eighth grade and then ninth grade. It's like a this is your life kind of scenario. And miraculously, everyone looks older, except in my mind, I'm the only one who doesn't. Like everyone
I
else.
like that you say in our mind because I've thought for years. I don't think I'm there anymore, but I used to think I looked like Benjamin Button. Button. I was going the other way, but that may be in my mind's eye. I know it's not the case
I
anymore,
know
but
I'm
for a
aging, yeah,
while.
but in my mind I'm not aging. In my mind I'm still like 25, but in reality I'm not anywhere close to 35, 25 or even 35. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about age and thinking about your question about stepping into your power and re-envisioning your future. Because I said to my husband, I said, we're 55. We have another 45 to 50 years to live. Who knows how long? I mean, because people are living longer, so we're like almost halfway. We could view ourselves as like a little bit more than halfway done. Like we have another 40 years to live, which I'm like, we can do a lot. Just think about all that we've done from age 20 to 55. That's basically 35 years of just doing interesting things. And think about what we could do between 55 and 85, 90. I mean, I don't
My
know.
my mentor Jack, I'm looking at his picture there. It's over there somewhere, hidden behind one of the spotlights here. He retired in quotes at 93 years young from driving the nursing home school bus, or not nursing home. He called it driving the youngsters around with the nursing home bus.
Yeah.
He passed away within 6 months. He always said that men tend to pass away within 6 months of retiring, so he wasn't going to retire until he's like, "Damn it, Michael, I'm tired. It's time for me to check out of here." I'm like, well, what if we could make you young again? And he's like, damn it, Michael. He had a good life, but people don't realize this. But I'll be turning 49 in a few months,
Wow,
and
Michael. Wow.
so that's still another 40, 44 years of life. What can I
Yeah.
do in
Yeah.
44 years? And yes, I'm very young at heart, and I'm very woohoo, and I plan on continuing to stay this way. But it actually comes along with the theme of what we're talking about. Part of why I probably look and feel young is I'm continuously reinventing myself. I'm not getting, as I was talking about a guest about feng shui and decluttering earlier today, and they talk about with feng shui, if you keep old stuff around, like in a china cabinet that's not being used, it becomes stagnant, like a stagnant, almost moldy pond. And
Mm.
so I'm continuously reinventing and challenging myself to keep that energy flowing. And it is
Hmm.
just more fun that way.
Yeah. There's so much more. I said to my husband, like, why? We could do so much. You could become a doctor if you wanted. Like, I mean,
Yes.
why not? Or take classes. Like, we could take all sorts of, we're right near the University of Washington, so it's very easy for us to take a bunch of classes. I mean, I don't know if I have enough time between now and when I go to Camino de Santiago, but I've even thought about taking Spanish classes. I mean, like, why not? What is stopping me? There's nothing stopping me. So that's
I think
kind of
it'd
the
be more
exciting
fun. So
part.
I would highly recommend either take the classes if you, I almost want to put in quotes, have the time. It's a priority. There's a way
Yeah.
to find a way to do it,
Yeah.
or you can certainly do it online, but why not? You'll just have richer, more meaningful
Experiences.
conversations.
Yeah.
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 Jessica's doing the same thing, and I didn't even put that on the list of stuff to talk about, which is I was in very encouraging when she got the community college calendar earlier this year, a catalog. And she's like, well, what do you think about this? Take it. Well, what do you think about that? Take it. She just came back from a class on kind of a Feldenkrais kind of class of
Mm.
intuitive body work. And I'm like, take it, take it, take it. She's like, all of this? I'm like, absolutely. How else are you going to find out about yourself unless you try all of these different
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree. All right. So tell me a little bit about you have so many focusing on the big picture. What is it that you need to be truly honest about what you want?
Well, looking at how we envision our future and
Mm.
being truly honest about that. So one of the things I just said to a coaching client, I believe earlier today, or maybe it was we have a coaching certification program because we'll have Inspire Nation coaching
Yay.
coaches coming up by the end of July. We're organizing their graduation, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Our first round of coaches, and I said. I will always continue coaching. As far as I know, I love coaching. It brings me to life. But I no longer want to have to coach
Hmm.
by the end of this year.
Hmm.
And there are ways we can put in place to make this work, and that's part of this reinvention. But that was being truly honest that I don't want to have to be trading my hours for dollars anymore,
Hmm.
that I want that to be a choice. Being honest with yourself is about how much money do I really want to bring in? How do I really want to live? Some people say, well, it'd be really selfish if I did X, Y, or Z. If you're reinventing yourself, you have to be really selfish. In
Hmm.
fact, if you have kids, the concept of being really selfish, not about being away from the kids 24/7, but the concept of putting yourself first, or at least in the midst, putting the oxygen mask on yourself, will teach them that they can take care of themselves rather than martyring themselves for others as well.
Hmm. Hmm. I was
I
just
think,
talking to August Turk this week, and we were
yes,
talking about people. We're in, I'm in Seattle, which is the world of Amazon and many companies in which you have millionaires walking around that are 20, 30, 40 years old and retiring. And I said, what I find really interesting is people who have that, so he has when I talked to someone else, this gentleman who's so fantastic, he was talking about 7 stages of maturity. Have you talked to that guy? Okay, so I was talking to him, and we were talking about money and how people use money in their lives. And he said, some people have all the money in the world, and because he has an exercise. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And I said, it's so interesting because I have people who actually have more money than they can probably spend for, unless they just go completely berserk, right? But it's going to be hard for them to spend that down. And, and, and they still continue doing what they used to do, which is fine if that's really what they want to do. But sometimes we just lack imagination. And he said, yeah, I have a lot of people that I coach on the East Coast who are in investment banking. They're like, oh, one more year, one more year, one more year. And they never, ever leave. And when that happens, he said, they leave and they just don't, they never find out who they truly are. Like he said, the purpose of life, I think, is to truly figure out who you are and engage. And I would add in CJ's book that yet to be published, it's like figuring out who you are is by engaging in things that you love doing. And so asking yourself, do I love this? And it's like, no, but I do love something else. Well, how do you figure out a game plan so that you can do that something else? Because money is just an exchange of, it's like exchange of energy, and it should be the thing that allows you to fuel you to do the things that you love doing. And if you're using your money not to do that, it's like if you're not using your money to do that, then really what is the purpose of money? I thought that was so interesting.
there was I think I may have mentioned it on air last week, a movie that I absolutely loved that I watched just about a week or so ago. Hector, and I think it's Hector and His Search for Happiness.
Mm.
And in this movie, Hector realizes as a psychiatrist, he's not happy. He's been faking it. And he's like, I'm not being real with my client. Basically, walls have been up. And, he cracks and he throws himself off on this grand adventure. And he ended up flying into Shanghai.
Mm.
And there, I guess, on the flight, he ends up just surrendering into everything. And because his seat was supposed to be taken, this, that, and the other, he ends up sitting. They upgrade him to business class, and he's sitting next to a very wealthy investment banker
Mm-hmm.
who they had run out of seats in first class. This guy's miserable having to be in business class. And they befriend each other. And he's at dinner with this very wealthy businessman who has all this most amazing spread of food on the table that 10 people couldn't eat. And of course, he's only going to have a few bites and then he's done. And Hector's talking with him and he's like, "Are you happy?" And the businessman is very confused by this question. And he goes, "You're right. I think I should retire. I should learn about myself. I should travel. I should do all these things. I think I'm going to retire." And Hector's like, "Really? You just made the decision you're going to retire now?" He goes, "No, no, I'm going to retire in another $20 million." And
Oh
then he
my
laughs. Then he laughs and he goes, "I've been saying that for the last 100 million.
Right. Oh my gosh.
I will put off
Wow.
happiness and self-discovery until when?" And he goes on to admit that the chase is keeping him from truly living.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way that we protect ourselves. I can't do X until Y. And so we don't turn the mirror on ourselves and say why or why not, which bringing it full circle to where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm.
Just I've been asking myself for a few years. I ask very quietly and I haven't come up with a good answer. And now it's coming to a forefront. I've said, what would you do if Jessica couldn't work on the show anymore, or more specifically, if Jessica was no longer in your life? I don't ask it as a
Right.
morose question,
Right. Or a
but I'm like,
manifesting question. Just
yeah,
curious,
yeah.
like, what would you do differently?
I'm like, how would I step up to the plate and get things done? And so we've been talking about weaning her back because she's an artist through and through. Her mom sacrificed her artistic career, a Chinese
Mm.
watercolor painter, to support the family and became an accountant. Her mom was, so Jessica's grandma was an ambassador way back when in Taiwan when women didn't really have any sort of role. And
Mm.
she was a world player. And so it made sense that her daughter, Jessica's mom, would sacrifice her artistic career, but people would still enter her artwork. She would still paint, enter it in contest, and she'd win. Now that she's
Mm.
retired, she's going back to it. This is in Jessica. So Jessica's artistic endeavor is where her heart calls her, but
Mm.
instead she's been the producer of a show, uploads and choosing guests and emails and keywords and titling and tagging and all of this stuff, which is not serving her. And I think that's why she's been getting the cosmic butt kicking this year. Both of us have to help get her out. She had an intuitive meeting last week with somebody who can see your guides,
Yeah.
who's like, we see, and I'm going to butcher it, so forgive me, Jessica, if you can hear me outside the studio. She said that there were not only guides all lined up in rows next to her and behind her, but behind her was like this giant canvas of creativity. And the
Mm.
intuitive said, the point is, it's behind you. You need to turn around and face it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
the message being she needs to get out. And so I have said, all right, that's it. That is the final straw. And I have been going, not crazy, but I've been taking all of my free time with joy and interviewing people, look at hiring, what do the different positions look like, met with another expert, how do we figure out what this flow chart is, and we're working to get her out quickly. At the same time, I'm saying, wait a second, why rebuild the current paradigm? I don't have to just get her out. How much can I get me out of the show? I love the interviews. I'm going to keep the interviews no matter what. But what can I do to reinvent, re-engineer things so it's more of what I like
Mm-hmm.
as well?
Mm-hmm. I was thinking exactly the same thing. Well, as I was reading the seven stages of maturity, money maturity, there's a set of questions. I wish I had the book in front of me, but the questions were, what are your dreams 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And I was like, whoa, like as a coach, I don't go out that far. It's more like, what do you want in the next year or 6 months? That's the kind of time frame that I operate in. I don't go too far into the future. And then it's like, what do you want? And I've usually look at these exercises and a little bit roll my eyes like, oh, brother, like, oh, these are so remedial. But I went through them anyways, and they were helpful. And it was, at your deathbed, what do you want people to say? And if you were to die at this moment, what would you like to have happen? And what are your dreams? And it's interesting because I sat there for a long time going like, what are my dreams? Like I haven't, you're so busy in the process of life, driving your kid here, doing this, doing that. Like my dreams have been very focused towards, I want my children to have a great education. I want them to have great opportunities. But I'm like, what about me and what I want as my own dreams? And yeah, and I've been thinking about that a lot. And it was weird that I didn't have an immediate answer. And then I thought, of course I have an answer. I mean, I want to, like, my dreams are really different because, the more you go down a spiritual path, your dreams are not necessarily about getting, the fancy car or, the fancy jewelry or whatever. For me, my dream is really about liberation, to be truly free and to be in a place where, more days out of not, I'm either growing and, getting my butt kicked, or, because you can't have the growth without getting your butt kicked. But, having joy, having creativity, having meaning, having fun. Like if that's my dream, to have one of those things happening, growth, creativity, fun, meaning, like that would be my dream. And it's so different than the dreams that I had when I was 20 or 30 or 40. And now that I'm 55, it's just like, it's more conceptual dreams. But it was interesting because I realized I didn't have like the quote unquote dreams, like, oh, I want to get the house or, it's interesting.
If I was coaching you, please forgive me here, CJ, but
Yes,
if I
go
was
ahead and
coaching
coach
you,
me. Yes.
I would first say it's time to develop a mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you already have one. And what I would do is I would have you over a period of a week write out exactly what you're talking about and big picture, high level, not about, well, I want the specific house on the hill and I want, $5.1 million in the bank account and blah, blah, blah. But I want a big picture mission statement of what would bring you great joy, of great happiness, of why you feel you are here. And then we whittle it down to a couple paragraphs, to a paragraph. By next week, I would say you have it to a paragraph. The week after, we get it to a couple sentences. And that becomes a guiding light. It gives you wiggle room. It's not a, well, I want to get to XYZ career, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine is too. Mine is simply, it's been distilled down into 3 words: to live, to laugh, and to learn. That's
Woohoo!
my mission. To live, to laugh, to learn. And if I'm not doing one, it's kind of it's a correlate to what I love doing. Like, to laugh is equivalent to fun. To learn is what brings me meaning. To live means to fully embrace the world around me and just have joy in the simple things, like in looking at a cloud and laughing and looking at a double rainbow and feeling the joy, like so that I don't have to have like some fancy whatever or some elaborate experience, although heck, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy the Camino de Santiago, which is like an elaborate experience, but I don't have to have that in order to just have joy. But yeah, that's my mission statement. What's yours, Michael?
It's lengthy. It's about a couple sentences. The first part I always keep the same. The second part changes, which is to raise people's vibration, elevate consciousness, shift humanity, and while enjoying all that life has to offer, while spending more meaningful time with my wife, with my family, with my kids, while going farther down the spiritual journey, deepening in that relationship, and experiencing all that life has to offer. So, and that encompasses a lot. I want to bring that childlike joy to all that I do. My mission, though, is very clear. Enjoy everything. I'd love to world travel. I believe I'm a world player, a world leader at some point in the future. And I want to take the biggest lever that I can and move this rock.
Mm.
And that brings me great joy. But at the same time, balancing that. That's what I try to teach everybody is how do you balance even what that rock is that you want to move with being able to hike
Mm-hmm.
to this Camino. I want to do this as well. I've talked about when we have our first baby, we want to throw ourselves out there. I want to go to Peru and meet the Incans, who's ever left, and the Aboriginals and the Maori, and go to the caves and go to the hills and learn. Um, an exercise that I get to do again that you may have already done because I like leaping past the present with people. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
lots of arches today. I've got, you can't see it if you're listening, but I've got a double rainbow behind me in the image, which is to leap past the present moment. I always have people a homework assignment of going, for instance, 10 years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You do this in a half meditative state.
Mm-hmm.
So I like putting on binaural beat music for people and have them write themselves a letter. So in this case, from your 10-year from now, CJ.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing you smirking, so you've probably already
I
done
have done
this.
it with friends of mine. When we were in our 30s, we said, "What are we going to be doing?" And I don't know, it's some in the future, and we wrote each other. We wrote notes about what we thought each other was going to be doing. I wish I could find that. I think I sent it. I found those little notes, and I emailed my friends. I'm like, "Oh my God, I found this thing. I got to read this to
Wow.
you." But yeah, most people thought I was going to be like some type of head of marketing in a startup. So yeah, I am head of marketing in a startup, my own startup,
Yes, yes,
and I have
yes.
to do way more marketing than I ever wanted to do. Um, yeah, that's interesting. How about you? What's your when you look at yourself 10 years from now, is it what's I know I heard the Camino, I heard inspiring people and vibrate. Like what else? What else? Or is that pretty much like that's it?
No, no, definitely books, speaking, father, still running like the wind and doing all of my sport activities. But I see myself at some point, whether it's speaking before a UN, but speaking before world gatherings and really playing at the highest level, but also traveling around the world and really going deep into the woods to learn, to
Mm,
find people who wouldn't be mainstream but have this deep earth wisdom and learning from them.
mm,
I see myself playing an athletic role until my last days.
mm,
And I see myself, there is a little pendant that I have that's just a natural stone that's been polished that now my little stuffed animal dinosaur, who was the play pal of my service dog Sawa, so is on the desk in front of me. This pendant, on one side of it, it looks like a Moses image of somebody carrying a staff and standing tall, like leading a people. And I got something like that out of a past life regression many years ago, and I thought they were nuts of me standing up on a mountain speaking before thousands and thousands of people. I'm like, yeah,
mm.
right. I do that every day
Right.
now.
Not in the way that you thought. It's not like you're a mountain, but you're like the
You
internet's a
never know what
mountain.
it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But I see myself playing a very big role, and we're only less than 4 years in to our being able to reach out. If I'm doing something like this,
Mm,
10, 20, 30 years, who knows? Not from an egoic place, but from a let's rock this thing. And a word that comes to mind, I see us having a lot of wealth.
mhm,
And I see us being, I was talking with Jessica about it yesterday. I'm like, I can't wait until I can start my Bill Gates Foundation, my
mhm.
philanthropy organization where people can come to us and we get to choose who we can help to help shift this planet. I see it so clearly. I
Oh,
know that's coming.
yeah.
Is it me on the mic like this on a daily basis? I don't believe so. But right now, I can actually, as I re envision the future, we have enough content that if we just played on YouTube, I could probably stop working today, find a way to use our content, and not work for years. Once we figure out that
Mhm,
formula, we're tweaking it.
mhm,
But I don't actually want to let go of
mhm,
the interviews.
mhm.
I'm in school. I love it. It gives me the greatest joy. So you ask the question, well, if you were given unlimited resources, it would look different. It might be me with a microphone in the jungle with somebody.
Mm.
But don't want to stop what I'm doing.
Right. So
Just
there's a travel component that would be different. Same thing, travel component, and people, maybe not book authors, but simple people doing, living extraordinary lives. Like there's an NPR episode. You could
yeah,
just take it over. I don't know who does it now, but it's about simple people living
all
extraordinary lives.
levels of the strata.
Yeah.
I want to meet with the elders in the woods. I want to interview great peace-loving, earth-loving leaders to see what we can learn from all strata. And I want to bring this to people who have been incredibly successful, who our show is great, but right now they're say not ready for us to come on the show yet. I want to
Hmm.
interview them if they have something to offer. How do we raise the vibration? But I don't think, I've envisioned it as an Oprah show when I am seated. I still envision the studio, the audience as a piece of it, but not me, more interaction with people rather than me in a quiet studio up in the hill in the woods.
Yeah. I see you actually like running next to like a Tumo monk going like, okay, so tell me, like I just have this vision of
Well,
you running next to a
that
monk.
would be awesome. Well, there's in Japan. I don't want to do it, but I've read books on these people. They're the marathon monks
I know.
of
That's what I
Mount
see you
in
doing.
Japan. I totally would be down with that.
I just saw this image of you like, okay, so, running along with the monk next to you. You're like, okay, stop. Tell me about, tell me about Tumo. Are you ever going to stop? And you're like, nope. And you're like, okay, let's go. I just have this image. It's so funny um, when I listen to, like when I listen to my own dreams, and I'm envisioning, I'm trying to envision what what my equivalent would be. And what's interesting is, what would give me the most joy is to say, I don't know any, I have no
Oh,
fathomable idea.
surrender is huge.
Huh? Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. I feel like I've done a lot of good deeds. I feel I can still do more deeds. I have a lot of capacity to give. I have a lot of skills to give. I have a lot of life experience to give. And now I'm just available. And in my practice, Tantric Shaivism, they talk about, well, two things that you had said that made me think about it. But I'll go back to those two things later. But they say, it's about seva, which is your sacred, it's like your divinely inspired action. And
Mhm.
almost, and, I was one time in a session with my coach from way long ago. And I was tuning very deeply into my intuition. And my question was constantly like, where is my destiny? What am I supposed to do? What is my destiny? And, and then that day, I got an answer that still resonates with me, which is that it's a moving point. It's never going to be one thing, but it's about just being led by divine and doing whatever I'm asked to do. And that's basically, so I can't, I don't have any vision of like doing a large audience or, traveling and talking to, like, I literally, for me, like having those visions is unhelpful because for me, because I'm such a control freak. I want to like figure it all out. And for me, it's like, what my dream is to go, I don't know. Like, it's just when I view the future, it's almost like a big empty slate. And I'm just waiting. I'm just sitting there waiting for directions. Like I'm sitting there waiting for the email from Shiva, God, or whomever to come like, okay, now you're going to do this. I'm like, okay, I could get on
That,
the bus.
that's gonna be your Camino. Your 500-mile hike across Spain is going to be that.
I don't know. I
So,
hope so.
there's
I'm not going with any intention of that being the case. I have very clear intentions of like letting go of stuff and just walking into my future with no clarity with where it's going to take me.
from all of my travels, which used to be quite extensive. There's something I call road magic.
Hmm.
When you put yourself out there, you may still go from A to B, but the inner journey is going to be so different than you imagine. Road magic is the synchronicities, the coincidences, the people you run into, the experiences that are going to shape and guide your future that you never could have planned on. will take place because you put yourself out there and open.
Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to be there, open, being guided, not for any particular reason. Like, I'm not looking for my next big thing. I'm just walking and seeing where life takes me. But isn't it weird? Like, it's like I don't have any vision or feelings or I mean, the only thing I guess I would say is my hope and feeling is just being in equanimity and just completely in resonance with God's will. And that would be my greatest dream, to be living life in that way. And so I can't paint a picture because I don't, aside from me just like sitting there in a big white sky waiting, which is that's my only vision. But, my greatest hope is that I live, I learn, and, I laugh, I love, and I learn and live, and that's all. Like, and whatever happens is fine.
And that's ultimately it. I feel like the visions that I have come to me. It's not what I've chosen. In fact, when I try to go off of those visions, it comes back to that. But I am in a
Speaking
place
of Jack, right? That was his vision. He said to you earlier, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, yeah. He said it to me within probably the first few months we met. Without coming from a place of ego, he said, "You're meant to be." Geez, it sounds so. You're meant to be the next Wayne Dyer, is what he said. Now, Wayne Dyer is Wayne Dyer. I'm Michael, and Wayne had inspired me so much, though we never met, so much in my life. But I would never, want to. It even sounds egoic to say it, but that's what he said. I envision you speaking. I envision you writing the books. And so he would say to me quite often, "Damn it, Michael!" Meaning, why aren't you on this path? Why aren't you doing this? In Maui, when we were writing our barefoot books and I was going on tour, and Jessica and I were actually having a lot of difficulties at that point, he wanted me to come back to Snowmass, Colorado, the next literal town over, and he wanted us to see about giving up everything that we were doing and volunteering for the monastery. And we
Wow.
actually flew out. We met with Jack. It was our last meeting with Jack before he passed away. And
Wow.
we came to the monastery and checked it out. It was the most amazing experience. There were silent monks at this point. We're sitting in front of the stained glass window. The glass comes through as a gentleman's giving a sermon about difficulties in relationships or something like that, and hanging in there. The light comes through, like right through Jesus and Mother Mary, and shines just on Jessica and myself. It was a total ooga booga moment.
Wow.
And we moved here 7 years later. We moved to this spot.
Wow.
He felt we were completely off track from our Dharma, from our prabdha karma is a better way to put it, from our path that we were given. And he wanted to help steer us back on that path.
Wow.
Now, I have not chased it down, but lots of synchronicities have come to bring us to this point. I know in 2020, without efforting, I will be writing book after book after book, I believe, for the rest of my life, unless that's not what universe, God,
Right.
or source wants.
Yeah.
But I see it coming, but with a total
For now, who knows
surrender.
what it's going to be after that, Michael? I mean, that's just for now.
Yes.
You're already living that right now. I mean, to a pretty full expression, honestly. So who knows what could be next? I mean, you just don't know.
And I don't need to. I don't want to take the book of my life and tear the page trying to force it ahead.
Right.
I'll be what this page is. The next page hasn't been written. I'm not supposed to know what's on it. I'll just keep being right here. And then when it's time to turn the page, I never expected to have this show. Never in a million years would I expect to be on the air. The only inkling is, I think, as a 10-year-old, I called in once or twice to a talk show, and then I freaked out as the announcer picked up because I was actually on the air, and I hung up because I was too embarrassed.
I remember that it used to be the time where you'd call into the radio and like give the
Yeah.
answer, and then you're like waiting online, seeing if the GJ would pick up your phone, and then you'd be like, "Hi," it's one of those things. All right, so I want
Yeah.
to go back to, so you're chasing bicycles. Putting that on the table is the stuff that we just talked about. Is that right?
So
Yes.
chasing bicycles was last year. I was racing bicycles,
Yes.
and this year, as my body is coming back online, it really took a licking this spring with the 6 weeks of being sick, and then I got tendonitis because I tried to get into things too fast. We have a mountain bike trail next to us. It's now open, and instead of training on the bicycle to go racing, I'm having fun making sure that no bicycle actually catches up with me, and I'm trying to chase down bicycles uphill running.
You're
It's
running
mega
behind the
fun.
bicycles?
Well, behind or in front, because it's a dirt trail, and so far I've been able to stay ahead of every bicycle on the trail so far.
I hope that what's that guy that passed you, the famous bicyclist?
Lance Armstrong,
I
who
hope
said that I had.
Lance Armstrong is like pedaling, and you just like run him down, and you're like, nice vintage, like
That's
saying
right.
something snide about his bike as you like run past him.
Oh,
Dun
with all
dun
love,
dun dun
but
dun. Just see
I'm
you.
having fun. It's not about doing a race. It's not
Oh,
about
I
this.
know, but I
I'm just
want to see that. I
so
still repeat the story about you and Lance Armstrong and this comment about your bike being a nice vintage bike.
it could happen. Stay tuned. Yes, he did heckle me in a very loving way about my tank of a bike, and I have, it's about where you want to put your resources. I'd rather
Mm.
put my resources at this point in getting help on the show rather than getting rid of my tank of a bike. But it does bring something up that I've dusted off this year.
Yeah.
And everything goes in cycles, and you have no idea how it's going to work. When Jessica was coming back from illness, we'd moved to New Jersey, and she goes, at one point, as her light is coming back on, her heart light is growing, and she goes, I wish I could ride a bicycle with you, but I can't keep up.
No.
And the next day, I had driven from Jersey to Connecticut and back with a new to us tandem.
Oh,
And
cute.
we got her back in shape. She didn't even have to pedal. I could pedal the bike. And now she's wanting back on the tandem, and she wants to tandem because this year there's not that much hiking here because the maximum snow we've had for the year is this week. The mountains are filled with snow. You can't hike up them. And so she's like, why don't we make this a riding year? Why don't we go explore on the
That is
tandem?
adorable.
And so we're going to be out,
Okay,
maybe
so now I
next
have
week.
this new image of you guys going past Lance Armstrong on your tandem bike.
Dun,
Can
dun, dun, dun,
can I tell you
dun.
just like an awful story about Lance? I don't know Lance Armstrong. I'm sure he's a lovely
I'm
man.
sending him love. I'm sending him love.
Okay,
I'm
but I
sending.
just got to tell you, my chiropractor is telling me the story of sitting his friend was sitting next to Lance Armstrong, and he gets a lot of attention from the ladies, and but in ways that she or his partner didn't really like, and so she did. Is anytime he was like she saw him picking up on women in a way that she didn't enjoy. She would go over, and I guess she had a lot of gassy water, and she would just go over and fart. Walk by and dust the whole playing ground. Anyways, that's
I have no idea where to go with that
I
situation
don't know where that came from.
at all.
Yeah, that came out. So let's go to
But
being willing to take
I
risks.
have no idea. I'm going, is this my ego? I'm like, do I have any reason for sharing it? And I don't know, maybe it is my ego. I did train at the Olympic Training Center. I was heading off to Europe. He had just come into the Olympic Training
Yeah.
Center. So our paths have crossed a few times. And then I saw him again at an outdoor retailer show when I had a friend who wanted me to get a poster signed by him because my friend had prostate cancer, maybe brain cancer as well. And so it was very inspirational for him. And just that signing of the poster, I'm sure really, really helped.
That's sweet. Okay, there's a positive story. So we've balanced out the Lance Armstrong story. Okay, how about being willing to take risks? What's going on that? What's going on
So
with that?
we met with this YouTube expert last week, and we were looking at how to reformat the show. Still have the hour show, also have the shorter pieces for YouTube. But what can we do to liven up the formula, make it more interesting, draw more people in, keep people's attention longer? And so historically, the show has been a very standard format of, fun little intro, warm people up, dive into their story,
Mm-hmm.
get their full arc,
Right.
build our way to a crescendo through their book.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice, but people don't have attention spans
Right.
anymore. And so now I'm playing with, and it wasn't easy to really to chop up for YouTube pieces. Now what I'm doing is I'm engineering it as 4, 5, 6 segments through it. If you're listening carefully, you might catch on an hour-long show that the segments have changed. It's just really easy to chop up for YouTube. Now let's talk about blah blah blah. That's one change, and I have to really be more present on my notes and timelines and things like that. Which the more constraints we have, I think the better we get at
Mm-hmm.
anything,
Yeah.
relatively speaking. But on top of that, I'm trying to interject more of the stuff that I would save for the end. Boom, right there in the beginning. Dive into the meat of things. Then we go to their arc. Then we go through some of the key points
Mm.
so that I can make it more interesting for the audience. Just the very concept of it, you're going to play with a format that works, which is my style too.
Right.
I'm both curmudgeony, I like what I like, and I'm always willing to change. Life is paradox, all paradoxes. But now I'm playing with it, and I'm only 2 days in. But it's really, really exciting to
Oh,
mix things up
exciting.
and see how I play this game of chess. And it is a risk because I'm going into um, within each interview, as you know, it's like I don't know, it's like a deep dive underwater with your scuba gear on. What's the cave going to be like? Are there going to be sharks? Are there going to be piranhas or barracudas? Where am I going to end up? And now I'm like cutting the line from the oxygen cord and saying I'm going to do things a completely different way. Send me down. Let's see how this goes.
Oh, fun. Oh, I can't wait to hear as your journey develops what you decide to do. But I do
It's
think that shorter, I've been getting the same feedback throughout time. And then I started doing 50, I took a interview that I had with a very famous person who is the Christian Das. And
yeah.
I split that out into like 4 segments. And still, the longer segment gets like, I don't know how many, like 50,000 views on it. And the smaller segments get like 1,000. I don't really know why, but people tell me they want smaller, but the smaller
There's
ones
a
don't get views.
there's a lot to it, and we're just learning about this whole formula. So we met with a YouTube SEO expert last week.
Hmm.
Titling, tagging keywords is part of it. The right conversational and grabby title is huge. The thumbnail is as important or more important than the title itself. A
Mm,
grabby thumbnail means
mm,
everything.
hmm.
SEO is starting to mean less. So unless you have those pieces, and unless you have the retention rate that they're following through and listening through the whole thing, it will go nowhere. So our short ones that we did just a few of years ago didn't go anywhere. We were thinking the same thing as well. But there's a lot of retooling to understand this new format. It's just not as simple as chopping it up.
Ah,
With that said, we're hiring an editor this week. We until we met with this YouTube expert, we were going to go with an SEO expert to help us with titling and the algorithms and the this and the that. And eventually we were going to do shorter content. Jessica's philosophy was until we optimize the content we have, why would we create new content?
mm-hmm.
The YouTuber expert's philosophy was the content you have doesn't work.
Hmm.
You need to optimize. You don't want to optimize suboptimal content. You need optimal content. That doesn't mean we have to redo everything. We can chop up videos that we already have and do great with, but no one listens to our numbers show that on YouTube, our average video, hour-long video, is listened to or watched for 18 minutes. The
Mm,
best are 25 minutes.
mm,
Even TED Talks is down to what, 12
mm,
minutes
mm.
now. So we have to get the shorter comment to give people what they're looking for.
Right, right. It's basically basic market research. This is what the customer demands, but somehow you keep on serving up something different than the customer demands. And I'm completely guilty. I'm just waiting because I'm lazy to look at what you're going to do and then copy that. So
Perfect.
I'll follow
Perfect.
you. I'll be drafting
And
behind you.
I am very excited because I've talked about it for years. And so the SEO, we're not going to hire an SEO expert. We're going to get an editor on board this week. It may or may not be the same person who does our social media content, who does these things called audiograms, which I'd never even heard of till this week, and puts up little snippets of audio and little snippets of video up. And we are going to, I'm convinced, completely take things to a new level as we're giving people what they want. We'll still have the
Right.
long format for those who want that. Um, but it's part of the, as we're getting Jessica out, let's do this in tandem and completely switch things up.
Right. So
Because,
if you're actually setting a new foundation of your work processes, set up the work
yes,
processes to what it's going to be going forward now with all the information you have. That's
yeah,
totally makes sense.
don't, don't reinforce the old paradigm.
Right.
Say, where do I want to be and what are the pieces I can put in place to be there and kind of leapfrog out of your paradigm.
Mm. So I'm doing training for the Camino de Santiago, and so my trainer has given me a set of exercises, and I'm just so tuckered out. I realize that I haven't been working out for a couple of years. Like I have been working out. I've been going to, I walk around. I probably do 10,000 steps every day, sometimes more than that. I go for runs. I do yoga. But, I'm like, I've been working out like 7 days a week. I'm doing something physical out there. But then I realized, I think I told you last week, I haven't been sweating. Like, I'm like, oh, I just don't sweat anymore. I'm like, and then I
Oh,
realized,
you're sweating now.
yes, I am sweating now. And I thought, I used to sweat when I did workouts. I haven't. But what's so interesting is I'm walking along and I just feel stronger. And I'm just walking and I feel stronger. I'm sitting and I'm feeling stronger. And it's phenomenal because that inner strength, like that strength in your body, conveys into certain confidence that I didn't realize I was even missing until I grew stronger through physically stronger. And there's a certain kind of body confidence that I didn't know I didn't have, but I know that I have it now. And it's growing, but it's just weird how that happens. First of all, how that happened so very slowly over time that I got out of shape because I've always been someone who's been working out since like age 12 all the way up to now and always working out like every day. I'm always like hyperly working out all the time. But yeah, it's really interesting how I feel more confident just because I'm physically strong. It makes a huge difference.
When Jessica was coming back from her mold toxicity, about 6 months into being in Jersey, I was going to get, my legs felt weak and I was having knee challenges. I have, full disclosure, 6 or 7 knee operations I've had, no ACL, no meniscus, all of the stuff that you're supposed to need for a knee. I don't have. It doesn't matter. It's not necessary. It's the strongest knee, as far as I'm concerned. It's the strongest, best knee on the planet. And I had to get it strong again at that point. And I said, I'm going back to the gym. And she said, if you're going, I'm going. And so she was going from like literally being in bed like almost 20 hours a day, get out of bed, be exhausted, go back to bed. She went to the gym with me. She started getting stronger and it flipped the on switch on so many levels. It flipped the on switch on confidence, on her ability to step forward, on her ability to speak her truth, all of these
Mm,
things as she's literally hormonally changing once you're lifting weights and growing strength. At the same time, she was using this TRX straps,
mm-hmm.
which
Love
and she was
those.
using it on shoulder opening
Yeah, those.
exercises.
I love those. These Y's, T's, Y's, and I's.
Yes, and the when you're doing those shoulder opening
Yeah, they feel so good.
exercises, you are putting yourself forward, leaning forward,
Right.
and stepping into your strength.
Yep.
That one exercise alone brought her so much more into her power. She
Mm,
stood differently instead of the shoulders curling
yeah.
forward. She stood taller, broader. It is amazing when we start sculpting our bodies into, the whole idea of body as a temple is the body is a vehicle. It's an
Mm,
everything. It's a portal. It's everything this lifetime. The whole idea about be spiritual and you can rise above your humanity or whatever
right.
we want to call it. No, you're incarnate. Use this thing.
Right. Yeah. Body, mind, spirit's all connected. Which
Absolutely.
actually leads me to what we were saying before. It's connected, and I thought, oh, I've got to tell Michael this. So I was reading about Tantra and the origins of Tantra. And Tantric Shaivism was the very originating part of yoga. So a lot of the hatha yoga that you see now, it's like philosophical cores go all the way to Tantric Shaivism. And one of the fundamental beliefs in Tantric Shaivism is that it's a twofold path. You're not only seeking liberation, but you're also seeking, joy, like joy, day in, day out joy, like eating a gigantic ice cream cone and just loving it, or seeing a cloud. Like, it's not just about spirituality is not necessarily just about, peace, equanimity, and love, all those things. It's also about like just enjoying the comforts and joys of life. And so when you were describing your life and what you wanted to be, I just view it as kind of the perfect balance of those things. It's very tantric because it is twofold. I think that sometimes on the spiritual path we forget it's about reaching liberation, peace, equanimity, so that your day and your life can be fantastic. And I thought, wow, that is just so, I just love the path that I'm on. For me, this may not be this may not be the path for everyone, but it's very, what you were saying is very tantric. And I just have one more thing to add. I was talking to someone, I have a client who is of Native American origins, and we were talking about some things about how she's had to adjust her physical appearance so that she assimilates into non-Native American culture. And I said, well, there's this idea of like inner fortitude and our losing our inner core by chasing what other people want us to be. And I said, what is the equivalent in your philosophy, your native philosophy? And she said, it's called walking the red road. And she said, walking the red road means that you, and I hope I don't botch this up, but something along the lines, because I know I'm not going to get this correct, and I apologize that I may not get this correct, but she said it's about walking, knowing that sometimes we're going to sin. We're going to sin, and sometimes we're going to be good, but having a balance of those things, which I view as like the sin is like we're just human, and good is like our spirit. Like, it's about balancing the spirit and the goodness associated with that, and then the humanness of that. And she said, really, it's about balancing that. So walking the red road is balancing these two things. And at the end of the road are my ancestors, and they're there guiding us the entire path. And I thought, oh, it's just so beautiful, so beautiful. So when you were talking about your path, it was definitely like, it's a mix, right? Of like, it's like, I have these like material things that I want to do. And at the same time, I want to have fun and joy and being great. It's like, anyway, so when you were talking about yours, I did think about those two things, and I forgot to share them. So I'm sharing them now.
I'm so happy that you did. And when I think of the term sin, and I don't, and neither one of us probably sees sin as, Judeo-Christian.
Yeah, it's egoic pleasures. It's kind of egoic pleasures is how I would put it.
And how I would put it is forgetting who we truly are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when we and I am guilty of that probably 23.59 hours of the day of I continuously forget and come back, and forget and come back. And it's this repeating cycle. And I look forward to that day when 24 hours a day I do remember who I truly am and am still enjoying all that this world has to offer. The full Monty, the full roller coaster ride. Not just the up and up and up, because not only maybe you don't learn, but there's no, if it's all, as they call it, puppies and roses, then there's nothing to juxtapose. There's nothing to compare it to. There's no contrast. There's no, you lose joy.
You need dog poo and thunders, storms.
Yes, but I've got to include the mantra here: kind, gentle, easy, good. Kind, gentle, easy, good.
Yes, you're like, please don't throw me a hard one, please. You've already gone through like 5 or 6 of those already in your life. You're like, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So tell me, let's see, what did we miss on here,
I
Michael?
think
Did
we
we
may
bring
have
in
covered
everything?
everything.
The only thing I'll
This has
do,
been a
I didn't talk
brilliant
to you about
show.
my graduation. Can I tell you about
Oh,
that?
please, 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 please. Yes, yes,
So it's been
yes.
very surreal. I woke up this morning at 4:38, and it's the day before my son goes to his graduation lunch. And during his graduation lunch, all the parents get together and they watch these videos, these that are like, you know, tug at your heartstring kind of videos. So I was like, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to go to this. So I go, I'm like, let's show up a little bit late because I just don't want to stay the whole time. So we go to watch this video, and I wake up in the morning and my heart just feels like just heavy. And I thought, okay, you don't have to go there. This is a whole story about like how you're going to be empty and all this stuff. And like, okay, that may be so, that's cool. That may be so. And you don't have to go there. You don't have to go down like a big slide of misery. Just, recognize that it's sad and, be sad. And then go on with your day. So I did that. I went over to yoga and I like, okay, get it together, CJ. And then I went into this parents' lunch, and then they showed the video, and it was just like I had to stop the torrential downpour of tears. The video wasn't
This
even
video
that
has been brought to you by Kleenex.
it wasn't even that great. It was just like all the emotions that I was trying to like stuff back, and it was just like, and just recognizing how incredibly rich it's been to have children. I can't even imagine what my life would be like without that. And so it was just this kind of fullness, like crying out of the fullness and joy of my son and the beautiful life that he's led and the incredible opportunities he's been given and what can happen in the future. So it's like it's all this stuff like rolling in together. And his graduation is on Tuesday. So the next time I talk to you, yeah, it will be that. Yeah.
It's very different this second time around, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, because I know what to expect, and yet I don't know what to expect. I mean, I know like some of the tactical things, like, oh gosh, when you see them walking away for your last time before when you drop them off to college, like that is just the worst. And coming home and having the house empty feels awful. So I'm prepared for that. Like I'm preparing
I
things,
don't think
knowing
it's
that
going
that's
to be
happening.
quite that way.
I don't
I
know.
don't feel it's going to be. It can be anything, and everything is perfect. But you are doing something that I would encourage a coaching client to do. You are stepping forward. It's not going into a place of mourning, for instance. You're going on the Camino. You're
Yeah.
saying it's time to get back to my individual journey now
Yeah. Yes,
and
that's
pick
true.
up these steps. So
Yeah.
it's actually you're stepping forward rather than stepping into an empty house. You are stepping forward into you.
Yeah, into vastness.
Hugeness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Um, that's what I'm hoping is to see, it's like you can see emptiness or you can see emptiness as fullness. It's just it's like a toggle that you have to in your mind see like everything is empty, full, or everything is empty, empty. Like it just kind of depends.
Same coin,
Yes,
different
exactly. Different
side.
sides. Yeah, absolutely. So that's it on my end. Anything on your end that you want to add?
No, I think what a beautiful, perfect time if you're listening to this to reinvent yourself, whatever it means. And I like that we're giving two different and same philosophies here
Hmm.
about absolutely letting go and absolutely envisioning. But realize anything, it is a blank slate. Anything is possible. And your job is to simply be with it. Be
Yeah.
with it all.
Yeah, open your minds, open your hearts, and expect the unexpected.
Woohoo! I think there was a kid in school. I got beaten up a lot in school, And it took two to tango. I really didn't have the social skills at the time to navigate the waters of childhood, which is quite aggressive.
Hmm.
But there was this kid who I had slugged in class because of who knows what and being teased and this and
Mm.
that. And he said, Sandler, expect it when you least expect it.
Thanks for bringing in that bully term and associated with what I just said.
Yeah, and he did. He got me good. All these beautiful journeys, DJ.
Michael, you
You know
have a
what the irony
tremendous
is?
life.
There was a Spanish class.
You know what I was saying to my husband? You've lived one of the richest, fullest lives that I've ever seen. You never cease to amaze me. Your whole life is full of adventure. I was telling my husband about the bird feeder thing, and we were both just laughing hysterically about it. It's just, you live a fabulous life, Michael,
Thank you.
even the hardship.
I am very lucky. I was thinking about it this morning. It's about 30 minutes to feed the birds each morning, and it's sort of like a monk in a monastery, going to light the candles and do this. It's such a labor of love, and
I
I am
know.
very, very blessed.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
blessed to know you too, CJ. And our shows keep getting better and better and richer and deeper.
they have
And so I
been.
just wanted to share that.
I love you, Michael. And I love everyone out there and appreciate people listening. I'm glad that we
My
have something that you want to hear about.
Woohoo! Now we
Woo!
just got to make it in a format that you can actually make it through the whole thing. So if you're still here and listening to it now, then above and beyond all else, shine bright.
Woo!
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.